Well, thank you, Pastor Elliott. And I am happy to be here. And sometimes when I introduce myself, I do say, hi, you can call me Ricky T. And they look at me and like, what? Said it's a long story. But hey, we're going to try to get a lot accomplished tonight. And it may seem a little quick to you. I'm looking out at the group, and I'm looking at the demography of the group. I got some young people, middle-aged people, and some older people. And so some of this you may say, I don't want to talk about that. What am I doing here? He's wasting my time. But someday it will come in handy for you. And for you, your parents might be going through some of this right now. And so we are going to have some things that I think will be helpful. So we're going to start out with the main topic of stewardship. That's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer. So I am not a lawyer, and I do not practice law. And I'm not a CPA. I was a CPA once upon a time, but I'm not an active CPA, and I'm not giving you tax advice or any type of financial planning advice or any of that. What I do bring to you is a lot of years as the CFO at Compass Bible Church, about 20, where I helped a lot of people through a lot of difficult situations. And so I'm just here to share some of that with you. But the first place to start has to be stewardship. Because if we don't have stewardship right, then everything else you hear today is really not going to be much value to you. So we're going to do that, and I have a book recommendation if you haven't already read this. It's a book by Randy Alcorn called The Treasure Principles. And one of the quotes from that book I threw up on the screen, God sees our finances and our faith as inseparable. So when we're talking about finances, and we'll get into some nitty-gritty detailed stuff, you just have to remember that that is inseparable from your faith. Your faith and your finances are so tied together that they work together. Used to be I could say, I could tell your spiritual maturity if you brought me your checkbook and we look at your checkbook together and we go through it, but you don't all have checkbooks anymore. So you're going to have to give me your login and let me look how you're spending your money and that. But this is a great book, and I would recommend it to you if you have time. There's also a book called God and Money, and it's by John Cortines and Gregory Baumer. These guys were MBAs at Harvard Business School, and they wrote a book on God and Money, which really I read and thought was a great book. It's about 5 or 6 or 7 years old now, but I've read Larry Burkett, Ron Blue, Randy Alcorn, all of their works, and I like this one probably the best, at least at this stage of my life. And he has a quote that says, Scriptures include over 2,000 verses on wealth and money for a reason. Our handling of wealth is critical to our relationship with God. So the treasure principle is going to help you kind of day to day. This will help you as you think of a bigger, broader picture as to what to do with the wealth that you have. So stewardship, this is for Andrea. We're going to define it. What is stewardship? So Webster's dictionary will say, the office, duties, and obligation of a steward. Okay, so now we got to look up steward at some point. Oops, went too fast there. The conducting, supervising, or managing of something, especially the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. And then Holman's Illustrated Bible, to get a Christian view of it, responsibility to manage all the resources of life for the glory of God, acknowledging God as our provider. That's your job and my job. And so my first major point, I know I don't have an outline, but my first major point would be you should be good stewards of what God's entrusted to you, but you should live a life where you're good stewards. So now here comes the interactive part. When you think of the resources God has given to you, what comes to mind? Interactive church, time. Work. Family. Health. Money. Anybody else? All right, well, let's see what I came up with. You've been entrusted with the mysteries of God, first and foremost. You walk around the planet and you have to steward that. You've got responsibilities to share the gospel with people, to live a life worthy of your calling. So I call that the mysteries of God. You have to steward that. You have to steward your lives. Somebody said lives. Somebody said family. Somebody said health and relationships. We also need to steward the earth. Now, I'm not here to tell you, we're not going to get in environmental issues here, but we still have some responsibility to steward the earth, our income, and our assets. So you guys did pretty good. You got four out of 5 of them. But if we think about being good stewards then, we're going to run through some passages here. 1 Corinthians 4:12. Paul is writing to the Corinthians and he says, "This is how one should regard us as servants of Christ and stewards of the mystery of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful." So if you're going to steward things well, God expects you to be faithful in the things that he's given you to steward. And here it is, right here. We're servants of Christ and we steward the mysteries of God. We have to start there in any of these discussions. 1 Peter 4:10 and 11. "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks is one who speaks oracles of God. Whoever serves is one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen." So this is almost the gifts that you have in ministry. You need to steward those well. You need to work hard. You need to be effective in your ministry, and you need to give it all that you can. Don't forget, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that includes you. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the world and those who dwell therein. So God's created you. He's given you responsibilities. And when we talk about money, we have to be reminded that in Haggai, it's 2:8 says, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts." So whatever you have in your bank account, whatever you've amassed, you have to realize it all belongs to the Lord. And then Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers, as it is to this day." So when you think, I went to this school, I got this degree, I got this PhD, I got this master's, I'm working for this huge public company, the only reason you are doing that is that God has enabled you to do that. And you should thank God. We talked about our work, and I just want to remind you that we all have the same requirement to steward everything that God has provided to us. Matthew 25:14-15. "For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away." And what happened? Y'all know, somebody came back and one of the guys took his 5 minas and earned 5 more. Somebody had 3 there and 3 more. The one guy buried it in the ground, and God came back and said, "Why didn't you just get some interest on it?" Now, these are spiritual talents, and this is a spiritual parable, but he's using financial means that are true even to this day. So when we look at all the things we have to steward, including money, just remember, there's going to be a bit of a return on the effort that you put in. So now we want to talk about, again, just a couple other areas. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Now, Josh Price is going to talk a little bit about this more later in this conference. But I tell you, this is a scary verse to me. Because if I don't provide for my relatives, which would be at least my immediate family, the members of the household, if I don't do that, I've denied the faith, and I'm worse than an unbeliever. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be worse than an unbeliever. I don't want to get anywhere near that line. And so you have an obligation to take care of your family. First your primary family, and then extended family. And Josh is going to cover that. He's got a great presentation coming later today. And then about being content, I just wanted to remind you that if we have food and clothing, we should be content. God's word clearly says that. So please be good stewards of what God has given you. Now second point is going to be honor God by excelling at giving. Honor God by excelling at giving. Matthew 6:19-21 tells us we should be laying up treasures in heaven. I'm sure Pastor Elliott over the years has taught you this, but the gifts that you give to the church so we can do ministry in some way is going to provide rewards to you when you get to heaven. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, or where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So wherever your money is, that's where your heart's going to go. And this clearly wants us to lay up treasures in heaven. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You can't serve God and money. So some of this is going to be, it's all back to your stewardship and how do I view money and how am I using my money? You have to realize that your first love is your Lord Jesus Christ, and then as a faithful steward, you are going to spend that money wisely. And we need to give. Philippians 4:16-20, there's acceptable sacrifice. This talks about even in Thessalonica, you sent me help for my needs once and again. Not that I seek the gift, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit. I've received full payment and more. I am well supplied, having received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent, a fragrant offering, a sacrifice acceptable and pleasing to God. Did you see this in the charge to give? That one of the reasons is fruit will increase to your credit. Now, we're not a prosperity gospel church. We're not telling you, give $1,000 this weekend, and in 6 months you'll get $10,000 that you never even expected. We're not saying that at all. In fact, that is evil. That is heresy. But there is a principle here that if you give, you are going to get a blessing for that. It's going to be to your credit. And I can tell you, I've seen people at Compass Bible Church that are very generous and give freely. And you know what God does? He gives them more. And you know why he gives them more? Because they know they're going to give. And then they give. And then since they gave them more. And so you can see this pattern in people's lives where they're very generous and God does reward them. We do have to talk about your need to give. Every tithe is the Lord's, even in the Old Testament. Every tithe of the land, whether the seed of the land or the fruit of the trees, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. First fruits, guys. We see that all over the Bible. When you give and you're called to give, you've got to give your first fruits. You've got to give the best things. We're going to go over that in a little bit too. You have to give to God first. So in our giving, give to God first. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. Again, give the first fruits, and God's going to take care of all of your needs. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 16, 1-2, to give consistently. Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I directed the churches at Galatia, so you also are to do. On the first day of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up, as he may prosper, so that there will be no collecting when I come. So there's a charge that if you're going to give every week. Now some of you are going to say, Rick, I don't get paid every week. I get paid every 2 weeks. Okay, well then you can give every 2 weeks. Well, Rick, I don't get paid every 2 weeks. I get paid twice a month. Okay, then you should give twice a month. Hey, Rick, I don't get paid except once a month. Okay, you should give once a month. Hey, Rick, I don't get paid except once a year. I said, okay, that's how it works. And that may sound odd to you, but it's not. Some entrepreneurs who have businesses and they run them, they're not really sure what their year is going to look like, so they give once a year, and they give very, very generously. I was out of work for 18 months. I was in between some jobs. It's a long story. We had saved up enough money to survive for 18 months without working because we set money aside for the rainy day. And I kind of said, hey, I know the Bible. You give based on what you get. So I'm getting nothing. We're going to stop giving. That lasted about, I don't know, 3 months, 2 months? My wife says it's shorter than I remember. But it felt wrong. It was wrong. So we started giving based on what we were spending instead of what came in, which meant if I thought I had 18 months to live, I probably only had maybe 16 months to live. But I felt this urge and the love for my Savior to give money, even though I didn't bring anything in. I could have said, when I get money, that's when I'll give. And then I got into business that the operating cycle in my business was about once every 3 years. And it just isn't right, really, to do that. So please, little c, give consistently. Then God says to give proportionally. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use it, it will be measured back to you. Again, we're not prosperity gospel people, but if you are generous with God, he will be generous with you. Acts 11, 29 and 30. So the disciples determined, everyone according to his ability, to send relief to the brothers. And they did so, send it to the elders of the hand of Barnabas and Saul. So when you give, we never do lateral comparisons. Number one, you don't know what anybody gives. But two, some of you are able to give more than others. You've heard stories about famous people. I gave 10%, I lived on 90%. I wrote a book, it sold a gazillion copies. So now I give 90% and I only live on 10%. And that's a great concept and a great theory, but a lot of us can't give 90% because then we won't be able to work. And then we're going to violate taking care of our families. And we talked about how we don't want to do that, right? But we should give proportionally. You make more, you should give more. Compass AV just started a series on 2 Corinthians 8, 1-7. And so this is super fresh in my mind. And Paul says, we want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part, for they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. So here's a group of people that gave, they overflowed with what they gave, a wealth of generosity, and they gave more than they had. So I'm here to tell you, you can't give more than you have, right? You can't do that because then you're not taking care of your family like we talked about earlier. But maybe you can give more than you think you can. Maybe you go through your budgets and you look at what you need and what you want, and you can make some changes there. It goes on in this passage, and it says this, not as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. They were active in ministry. Accordingly, we urge Titus that as he started, so he should complete among you this act of grace. But as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in all earnestness, and in all love for you, see that you excel in this act of grace also. It's the beginning of the year. I'm sure Pastor Elliott has challenged you. Be in your Bible more this year, right? Do our daily Bible reading. Take somebody through partners. Increase your prayer life. Invest in people. And I'm going to say, be great at giving. When you get to be my age or when you pass away, I hope somebody stands up and says, you were generous and you were generous. And we don't like to talk about it too much, but we have all these spiritual things that we want to do and improve from week to week and month to month. And Paul's calling everybody to give generously. So I would encourage you to do that. Proverbs 11:24, one gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. And Paul, you've heard this in this passage, Paul wants you to be a cheerful giver. If you can't be happy and satisfied with the number you give, then you should not give it. I mean, we're here to tell you that. I've just pushed you to give more and told you why you should. But if you're married, you and your wife should sit down together and you should decide together what, with inside your budget, you could give and then give that. And be very happy and content about it. We're not going to twist anybody's arms. We're not going to make you give. We're not going to do any of that. But we think that you should be a cheerful giver. And it's in Deuteronomy 15:10. I'm going to skip that for a minute. And then we talked about excelling in giving. That would be small g for me. You should excel in this. You should be the best givers of any other church in Orange County, other than Aliso Viejo. Number 3, I want to talk about ways to give. I'm going to get practical now. You can give money. That would be a great way to give. And you can give online with a church app. You can do recurring giving, so when you go on vacation and you forget to drop the check in the offering, you still take offerings in the offering bag? You can do that. You can mail in a check, and that still works because we get that and we receive that and we're happy for it. You can use your bill pay. That goes pretty quick. If you wanted to wire money to us, you can do wires. You just sit down with your bank and send us a wire. If you need the information, they'll give you all of the bank account information. You can give appreciated stock. I think this is one of the best ways to give. If you happen to be dabbling in stock, and maybe in our Q&A we'll have some time to go through an example of that, but really this is the best way for you to give, and it does benefit the church, but there are tremendous tax benefits for you if you give stock. You can give us your cryptocurrency. Go to give, there's a link, you want to give crypto, it takes you to another site, which is it was built for us, and you can give us your cryptocurrency. If you're 73 or older, I want to talk to you at the end of this series. There's a thing called a QCD, a Qualified Charitable Distribution, where you're having to take required minimum distributions, and there's a very good way for you to reduce your taxable income, reduce your taxes, and give that stock directly to the church from your individual retirement account. So you can do that. You can put us in your estate plan, and I may talk a little bit about that later. You can put us in your retirement plan. You can put us in your life insurance. You could buy life insurance for us if you wanted to. You could donate real estate to us. In the last 20 years, we've had 3 homes donated to Aliso Viejo and 40 acres of land in San Diego. Can you believe that? 40 acres of land. Pretty much worthless. But we took it anyway because we thought values were going to go up. And it got appraised. He got a wonderful tax deduction. We held it for a while. I kept telling Mike, we got to sell this. It's not going up. You couldn't drive to it very easily. There were no utilities. There's a funky road, but if you weren't careful, you'd get stuck. But if you want to give us real estate, someone gave us a house in Irvine. They gave us a condo in Irvine. They gave us a house in like Bellflower or something. People have given us their homes because they don't need them, and they want the church to grow and to benefit from that. If you're interested in doing that, let Pastor Elliott know. He'll get a hold of me. There's some more complicated ways, and I'm just going to mention them. Donor Advised Fund, Charitable Remainder Trust, Retained Life Estates, Charitable Lead Trust, Business Interests, Investments in Partnership. You can give us all of those things if you want. It gets a little more complicated, and I don't have time to go through it with this crowd, but just know that there are others, and there's IRS implications. Okay, I told you ways to give, right? And I convinced you now that you should give, and you should probably give more than you're giving. Here's ways not to give. Ready? What's he going to say? What's he going to say? I don't know. Please don't give us through Venmo or Zelle. I mean, I know it's convenient for you, but we're not really geared up to do that. We have the church app. Just go to the church app and give us that. We really don't want your vehicles or your boats. You go to your website, you can give us your vehicle. It goes to charities, cars to charities or something. They take 30 or 40%, and they charge us all these fees. But we're not geared up very well to take your vehicles. Foreign currency, I mean, if you went on a trip to Europe and you had 20 euros left and you drop it in the bag, it's pretty hard for us to do anything with that. So keep it for your next trip. Unless it's $1 million, and then we'll figure out a way to convert it somewhere. Please don't give us your timeshare, because it is not an asset, and we don't want to have anything to do with that. And don't give us something of little to no value. Okay, my practical observations. Give to the church first. And you're going to say, well, Rick, how much? Do I give on my gross? If I make $5,000 a month, do I give $500? But Rick, I don't get $5,000 a month because the IRS and the state of California and everybody else gets in that. I should give on my net. Do I give on my gross? Do I give on my net? Do I give 10%? Do I give 20%? Do I give 30%? You have to decide that before the Lord as to what you're going to give. I know when I was a younger Christian, it was like gross or net. That was a pretty big deal because it'd take, 25% out of your check? And we can argue about that, and we can talk about that, and I could give you some advice, but you should think about that, right? You should think whether you give out of your gross or out of your net. Talked about how often. I have to mention parachurch organizations for just a moment. Generally, you should give to your church first, and you should give a good proportion of that to your church. There are some parachurch organizations that even Compass Tustin supports, the missionaries that we support, and maybe you want to give a little outside of what you normally give, and you can do that. You may have a relative or a friend that's with one of these organizations that are still gospel-minded, but I would say this should be a small portion of what you do, because this is where you're fed. It's your obligation to take care of your church first, and I would suggest you do that. Some of your employers will match what you give to us. So you could go to them, like Costco employees, if you want to give the Compass Bible Church, they're going to match it. Now, some of your employers are going to say, I'm not matching a religious organization. I don't want to do that. But you might want to, if you work for a big company, just look in to see if they have a match. So I want to end this with this section. I'm going to move into another whole section in a minute, but I want to leave this because we're talking about stewardship, and I don't want you to get the impression that we're going overboard anywhere here, but Hebrews 13:5, keep your life free from the love of money. Be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. So when you sacrifice, when you do your budget, when you decide what you're going to give, don't love money so much that you hold on to it too tightly, because you know you're going to please God if you're giving it to the things that God is interested in. All right, we all good on stewardship now? Okay, that's what I thought you said. You're ready to go. Now we're going to jump into something real quick on retirement. There we go. So we're going to look at retirement. Same disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not any of that stuff. And so you should contact qualified professionals if you had any questions. So the first thing we should do is we should define the term. We should ask ourselves, is it biblical? Is retirement biblical? We're going to look at Social Security and Medicare. A lot of you are young enough, you're going to say, what am I wasting my time on that for? I don't know. Maybe your parents need help in this. But I hope you get something out of that. We're going to talk about qualified retirement plans, non-qualified retirement plans. And so that's what we're going to look at. So the first one was the definition. Retirement, the act or fact of leaving one's job and ceasing to work. That's what the Oxford Online Dictionary is. You're just going to leave your job and you're going to stop working. Is that what you think retirement is? Interactive church? No. Some of it is, some of it isn't. Some of you know I've retired. Well, I've only retired out of the rat race 50 to 60 hours a week. I'm still working at the church doing all kinds of things for the benefit of Compass Bible Church. I put it in ChatGPT. I wonder what they would say retirement is. So they said retirement is the transition from full-time employment to a season of life marked by stewardship, rest, renewed purpose, using the time, wisdom, and resources God has given for his glory and for the good of others. Like, well, that's a little bit better, right? You've got a renewed purpose. You're doing something new. You're doing something effective. We all need to rest, but you might have a renewed purpose. And God may have given you your life experience that you can use for his benefit when you get to that point. So is it biblical? Well, let's look at Genesis 2:15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to keep it until he wanted to retire from it. No, the mandate is to work, and this is before the fall. So I've seen a lot of people get to my age, they retired, and they get bored, and they don't know what to do. And you need to have purpose. God created you to work. Now, again, you may have been diligent to set money aside and take care of yourself, but you still have to work. I think there's even an article in today's Wall Street Journal that talks about people retiring and they don't have a purpose and they don't know what they're going to do. So retirement is not just, do I have enough money in the bank? It's, what am I going to do with my life? And so you're going to work. That's what God's word says. You're going to work. Psalm 92:12-15. The righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. They are planted in the house of the Lord. They flourish in the courts of our God. I would like you to flourish. They still bear fruit in old age. So you think you can retire from your work, but you never retire from being a Christian. Paul didn't go to the island of Patmos and play golf or go to the sea and pick up seashells. He was doing ministry all the time. So you're going to bear fruit in old age. They are ever full of sap and grain, which means they're productive, to declare that the Lord is upright, he is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. So when we talk about retirement too, is it biblical? We're told that we need to know the condition of our flocks and give attention to your herds. For riches do not last forever, and does a crown endure to all generations? So planning and being purposeful about a retirement is good. And again, we've proven you're still going to work, you're still going to be productive, you're still going to contribute to the kingdom, all the talents that God has given you. The plans of the diligent surely lead to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. So I want to encourage you that you should spend time on this. You shouldn't get infatuated with it and spend all your time on this. But it is biblical that there's going to be a point. In fact, I'll tell you when you can retire. You can retire when you're 70, which is what I did. No, actually I did. But Psalm 90:10, the years of life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80, yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone and we fly away. So this says you may only live to 70. In our culture, you're going to live a little bit longer because of the medical advancements that we've made. But here's an age of, maybe 70 is a good time. Let's look at Numbers 8:23-26. This is good too. I think you'll like this one. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, this applies to the Levites. From 25 years old and upward, they shall come to do duty in the service of the tent of meeting. That was their job. It's the Levites. They had to work in the tent of meeting. And from the age of 50 years, they shall withdraw from the duty of the service and serve no more. They minister to their brothers in the tent of meeting by keeping guard, but they shall do no service. Thus shall you do to the Levites in assigning their duties. So under the Levitical code, they had to work from 25 to 50, and then were they done? No, they joined your gatekeeper guys. They went to the parking ministry. They took people through partners. They did seminars like this. They're still very fruitful. But you could pick 70, you could pick 50. And these are hard decisions because you don't know how long you're going to live, but you want to be as productive as you can while you're here. John Piper wrote this book called Don't Waste Your Life. I don't know how many of you have read that. Sometimes it's to a younger crowd. But there's a chapter for some of you that are older, and he picks on old people that retire with nothing to do and have no interest in ministry, even Christians. They talk about a couple that walked along the sea, probably in Florida or something, and they love picking up these seashells. And John Piper in a sermon in this book says, so when you stand before the Lord and you retired at 70, and he asks you, what did you do for me from 7 to 80? Are you going to say, well, I got this really cool, look at these cool seashells. Isn't that good? That's not what you want want to use the end years of your life. Don't waste your life. He has another book called Rethinking Retirement, Finishing Life for the Glory of Christ by John Piper. That's a great book. Same kind of themes. There's another guy, C.J. Cagle, that I like a lot. Reimagine Retirement, Planning and Living for the Glory of God. So this is a Christian guy, but he helps you think through, well, what would I do? What could I do if you think it's time for you to retire? Okay, so now we're going to get into some nitty-gritty here. We are going to look at Social Security, maybe not so much Medicare, but they're usually combined. Social Security, we all have to pay into that, right? And it's benefits for all, but will it be solvent? Will it be enough? What do you think? What do you read? What we read is it's going to run out of money, right? By 2034. So why would I rely at all on my Social Security income? Because it's going to run out of money. And I can tell you, I heard that 50 years ago when I entered the workplace, because they were taking the same amount of money out of everybody's check back then. And we used to say, oh, it's not going to be there when you retire. I don't know a political person on the planet that's going to take away your Social Security benefits when you've paid in for as long as you've paid in. Now, they've already messed with some of the provisions of it. We'll go over some of those. When I was growing up, you retired at 65. I got to 65, you don't retire at 65. You retire at 67. So would they push that to 68? I don't know. Would they increase how much you have to give as you go along? I don't know. There's lots of solutions, none of which are very nice, but it's not going away. So I think you can plan on having a little bit of retirement. But when we look at Social Security, I need you to just, and again, maybe you are helping your parents because they don't know what to do, because you're not quite at that level yet. But there's something called the full retirement age. I want you to keep that in your mind. We're going to talk about a full retirement age, and then we're going to talk about spousal benefits, and then we're going to talk about when to enroll. Should we do that? Yeah. Okay, everybody's awake. Good. So here's a little chart. And you see beginning ages, 62 to 67. I told you full retirement age for most of you is 67. Right now, before they change it, you could take it at 62. And if you do, you get 70% of what you would get if you waited to full retirement age. If you take it at 63, you get 75%. 64, 80%. 65, 86%. 66, 93. 67, you get 100%. So there are some situations where, because of personal financial needs, you may want to take it early. But if you do, you're losing around 5 to 6% every year. Not only that, but if you're still working, they're going to reduce what you get by anything over some small number, like $24,000. And so you might not even get those benefits. But really all I wanted you to do when you looked at this chart was to say, if I can hold off to that full retirement age, I'm better off. So your mom or dad comes to you and says, well, I'm 63, I'm going to take Social Security. And you should say, whoa, wait. If you wait till you're 67, full retirement age, you're going to get a lot more money, and that will be better for you. It gets better because they also incentivize you that if you don't take it at 67 and you wait till you're 68, you get 8% more. If you wait till you're 69, you get another 8%. And if you wait till you're 70, you get another 8%. So they would like you to wait, right? Because they're running out of money. They're not running out of money. But it would be better for you if you were going to wait. Now, if you have terminal cancer and they've said you're only going to live, another 4 or 5 years, you might want to start taking some of that. But again, when do I retire? Do I do it at 62 or do I wait till I'm 70? And I'm here to say you should at least wait if you can until you get to your full retirement age. Make sense? It's a lot more complicated than this. But I also have a little chart. Charts always help. So the red line is if you start taking it at 62, The blue line is when you start taking it at 67, and the green line is when you start taking it at 70. So there's a break-even point here because you took a lower amount of money, but you took it earlier. The break-even point is 78 years and 8 months. So if you think you're going to live the less than 78 years and 8 months, take it at 62. If you think you're going to live, I can't tell where that break-even is. It's a little bit later. I think I have it in my notes. It's like, 81. If you wait till you're 82, if you live to 82 years old in 6 months, you should have waited until you were 70. And now you get, I say way more, but you get more in the big scheme of things. So people come into my office. I have somebody coming in Monday. He wants to talk to me about, can I retire? And what he's really saying is, do I have enough money to retire? And I'm going to say, what are you going to do with your retirement? How are you going to serve God with that? And is that really what you want to do? And maybe you'll have an answer. But my real first question is, I can tell you, I know how to do spreadsheets. I can tell you if you have enough money to retire. You just have to tell me when you're going to die. Tell me when you're going to die, and I'll plot it out. We'll figure out how much money you want to spend, how much you got in, and I will tell you. When you were born, the average lifespan was 75 years old for men, 76. For women, it was 81. Now, if you're like me, here's a little, probably can't see that, huh? Current ages along the left, male years remaining, the male average age at death, female years remaining, female average age at death. So, Elliot, how old are you, Pastor Elliot? 43. So let's say he's 45, just because they don't have 43 on my chart. They say he's going to live until he's 77 years old. I'm going to assume your lovely wife is younger than you. 23. So she's going to live to 81. Okay? But the thing about average age calculators and things, there's baked-in assumptions all over the place. Now, if you're an actuary here, you're going to say they're not baked in. These are good, legitimate estimates. But you can take me, I'm 70. This says, if you look at the line 70, I'm going to live to 84. And my wife's going to live to 86. Because the longer you live, your longevity extends further. So when you come to me and tell me how long you're going to live, I'm serious. I can't help you unless you tell me that. But this might just give you some idea. God knows when he brought you into this world, and he knows when he's going to take you out of this world. It's probably some minutia. Remember I said payments taken before your full retirement age, over $24,000. It gets reduced for every $2 you earn, your benefit gets reduced by $1. That's why I said it's really painful from 62 to 67 to take it, especially if you're working. If you're not working or your spouse is not working, then maybe you should do that. Your payments are adjusted annually based on inflation. So I'm on Social Security. Every January 1st, I get more. But it's based on inflation, so it's probably not a whole lot. And guess what? The payments are taxed by the IRS based on a modified adjusted gross income. That's just the way our government works. There's a minimum amount you can make before it's taxed, but everything above that, you're paying income tax on it. Of course, everybody wants to move to Tennessee, Texas, Nevada, and other states because they don't have any state tax payments. They're going to deduct your Medicare premiums. That's not for today. Spousal benefits, I do want to talk about. So if you have a spouse that's taking Social Security and you wait to full retirement age or you wait to 70, your spouse gets half of what your full retirement number was. I got a little chart. I'm going to show that to you in a second. But, it just disappeared. How did that happen? There we go. Although that slide's not in front of me. There's a website at the bottom of this slide, www.ssa.gov/OACT. /quick calc. You can go to that and you can do your own, just put your own information in. And it'll tell you for you what your benefits are going to be. Now, if you paid in the maximum amount on Social Security every year, which most of you probably haven't, and Josh is going to talk a little bit about this, I think you had an average Social Security number that you're going to talk about. So he has averages, which is pretty low, but I'm going to look at if you're on the other side, like you worked for Google and you maxed out your Social Security every year, which is a high number. I think I forget what it is this year, but it's like 184,000. So if you make more than 184,000, you don't pay any more in, but you get higher benefits. The more you pay in, the more benefit you get. So if you paid in everything all along the way, your benefit may be, right now at the bottom, $5,188 a month. That's what Social Security is going to pay you. If you started at age 62, it's $2,900 a month. Your maximum benefit at full retirement is $4,152. Remember I talked about the 3 different levels? So let's look at those. So I'm going to give you an example. Husband waits until 70. Wife takes the benefit at her full retirement age, and then she switches to the husband's, 50% of the husband's number. Now, most of you should, if you can and afford it, you wait till you're 70 to take your retirement, because when you die, your wife gets your full retirement. So remember that graph where if you take it at 67, but if you wait till the end, your wife's going to get whatever you were getting. So if you love your wife, you might want to wait to the end because she's going to get more money. But in this example, the husband waited to 70, the wife gets half of the husband's. Well, the wife doesn't get half of the husband's at 70, the wife gets half of the husband's at that full retirement age. So the math gets a little funny here, but let's just run through it. Let's assume your wife had a benefit of about $1,200 a month from 62 to 70, because the husband's waiting to 70. So the husband's benefit for years 62 to 70 is what? 0. You know, when you change fonts every once in a while, it doesn't line up like it should. I apologize for that. But basically, the family income from Social Security is $1,200 a month from 62 to 70. Now at age 70, that $1,200 has increased by inflation every year. Remember I told you it goes up? So I assume the $1,200 went to $1,520 for the spouse. 50% of the full retirement number for the husband that waited until 70 is $2,400 a month. So the wife gets her Social Security, or half of the husband's Social Security at full retirement age, whichever's bigger. So if your wife was making $500,000 a year, then this just all gets reversed. I become the spouse that gets half of hers or mine, which is ever bigger. But the reason I'm telling you this, again, for your parents, they're going to retire. When the husband or the one that makes the most money retires, the other spouse gets half of whatever that full retirement number was. So in this case, the husband's benefit was $6,500 because I let it grow for a couple years. The wife's 50% was $2,400. So in reality, the combined benefit is close to $9,000 a month, or $107,000 a year. So that should spur you on to work hard and make money while you're still working to try to be up in the upper echelon of income-producing people. But that's quick on just spousal benefits. I've talked to a lot of people, they didn't know there was a spousal benefit. So the wife was just getting hers. Then the husband came along and retired. She's entitled to half of it, but they're not going to tell you. The Social Security is going to call you and say, hey, I saw your wife is still taking the lower amount. You know, she could have half of yours. They're not going to do that. So just tuck that away somewhere. I don't know. Qualified plans. So we talked about Social Security. Now we're talking about qualified plans. One of the names of the qualified plan is a defined benefit plan. These are pension plans. If you work for the school district, or you work for the fire department in California, or the police, they're actually going to pay a defined benefit. They're going to take the last 5 years of what you made, and then they're going to pay that to you for the rest of your life, adjusted for COLA, cost of living increases. There's not many of those left because they're very expensive and it costs employers a lot to do that. Many of you have defined contribution plans, like a 401k, or at Compass Bible Church, they have a 403b. And you should put as much away into your retirement account as you can possibly do. And I'm serious about as much as you can. I'm going to show you why in a minute. Most 401ks and 403bs have matching programs. If they do and you don't participate in it, you're walking away from free money. Your employer is going to match it at 2%, 4%, 5%, 6%, 10%. That's free money that you're setting aside, and you should do that. And we'll talk about how to do that. I'm not going to go over catch-up rules because I don't have time. So 401k, 403b plans, and individual retirement plans, you have a choice. Do I do a tax-deferred plan, which means you're going to put money away today, and you're not going to pay tax on that. It's going to go into your account. It's going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And then when you take it out, you pay tax on it. That's called a tax-deferred plan. Or a lot of corporate plans now, even Compass Bible Church, you can designate your retirement money as a Roth. So what that does is you pay tax on it today, it gets set aside, it grows and 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 it grows. When you pull it out, you pay no tax. No tax whatsoever. So those are good things for you to look at. If you're young and you're in a low tax bracket, you should think about strongly consider Roths inside of a retirement, a 401k or 403b. If you're self-employed, there's something called a SEP IRA, a self-employed person's individual retirement account. You can put 25% of what you make inside of your company, up to $69,000 a year, into what's called a SEP IRA, self-employed person's IRA. And you put that in, and it grows and grows and grows and grows. And how much will it grow, Rick? I'm glad you asked. If you put $300 a month away for 30 years, after 30 years with just $300 a month, which means you're putting in $150, all right? $150 of your money, your employer matches it, it gets set aside. If you have a 4% return, you have $200,000 after 30 years. $300,000 if you got a 6% return. $447 at an 8% return. $678,000 at a 10% return. If you did $300 a month, see, there's a difference between these. 40 years, because you started when you were 25, and you worked till you're 65, no, 67, maybe 70, right? Excuse me. If you got a 10% return after 40 years, almost $2 million in your retirement account. And if it's a Roth, it's all tax-free. So here we're going to do $400 a month for 30 years, just $100 more. $200 of your money, $200 a match. And you see the numbers are bigger. You go over 40 years, the numbers are $2.5 million now. So I did one that said you're going to do $300 a month for years 1 through 5, and then you're going to get a raise, and you're going to add $50 a month to that. And that goes up even higher over 30 years and even more over 40 years. You say, Rick, how am I going to get those returns? How am I going to get those returns? Well, the S&P 500 for the last 20 years averaged 8.4%. The last 30 years averaged 9%. The last 40 years it averaged 10 to 11%. I'm doing a seminar on investing later. Maybe Elliot will have me back up. This is not an investment seminar. I'm not telling you how to invest your money. I'm just telling you there are vehicles out there that, if history tells us anything, which sometimes it doesn't, these returns could be good. So what I want you to do, I want you to take advantage of the retirement plans that are offered to you through your employer. I've told that to every Compass Bible Church that I ever had a chance to go through the onboarding with, because we have a plan. It's free money. It's going to compound. There's going to be a lot of money for you when you do retire. Contribute as much as you can. Understand tax deferred. Understand the time value of money. Understand your Social Security options. And then I'm ending this this presentation again with the same Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So that's retirement. We are going to have a formal Q&A at the end, provided we have enough time, which I hope we do. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that came up during this session. And then I'll stay as late as you want and talk to anybody about anything. I've done a couple of these up at AV, and there's some people saying, well, I got this one question I want to ask him, but I'm afraid to ask him in front of all the other people. So you can come up and talk to me, hit me up, and I'd be happy to speak with you then. But let's pray now, and then Pastor Elliott will come up and give us some directions. God, we thank you so much that we can trust in you with every aspect of our lives. We thank you that you've called us to be good stewards of every facet of our lives, from the mysteries of God to our lives, to our relationships, to our health, to the money we give to the church. We looked at 7 or 8 reasons to give and how to give. God, help us just to seriously consider those. Thank you for letting us look at these options in retirement, and they're different for every person, and they're not always as ironclad as they look like they're going to be. But we're grateful that you take care of us, that you love us, and thank you for this evening so far. We look forward to the rest of the evening, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.